Hello, everybody. Welcome to HG Movie Talk. Today, I am joined here by my co-host, Dean's Beans. Say hello, Dean's Beans.
Hello, Dean's Beans.
And today is an episode of Guest Best, where we have a guest on, and we are going to talk about their best movie. And today we have on SirSuperhero, aka Matthew.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Hi, how's everything?
Oh, going good. I get up every day, record TikToks, do my homework. That's about it. But going well.
Are you in college?
Yeah, I'm a college junior.
We all are in college.
Nice.
Besides Dean.
Well, no, it is
University.
college. You just don't call it.
Okay.
Well, college is high school for you, right?
No, college is the step between high school and university.
There's a step. Wait, there's an extra step in there?
Yeah, you
Dude, they do
finish
things
high
so
school
weird.
at 16.
All right.
Do you have middle school?
Where I grew up is the only place in the UK to have middle schools. It's actually called primary and secondary schools.
But did you have elementaries? Okay, so you had 4 things before university?
3. You have primary school, secondary school, and then college, and then university.
Okay. So wait, but we also have 3 because we have like elementary school, middle school, high school.
Yeah,
So
but
both have 3, but it's just like different. They start
yeah.
and stop at different places.
this
Whatever.
is a really
All right.
weird opening.
It is. You know what? I'm here for it.
Well, I
I'm
just
here
get
for weird
excited.
openings.
I just get excited when we have an American guest on because I can always team up and go on Dean.
Okay. Yeah.
Because there's not a lot that's I can go up against because, I mean, they have free healthcare.
Yeah. We gotta take what wins we have because there's very few.
We got a lot better cereals, man. We got a lot better cereals.
That's fair. I have a box of Count Chocula that I am resting my
Ooh.
computer on so that it's at the right height for my face.
Nice. He doesn't know what that is.
I don't.
Yeah. Tragic.
He didn't even know what Cinnamon Toast Crunch was, man. Didn't.
That is a
know.
thing in the UK, though. I can.
But you
get it.
didn't know what it was.
No.
Tragic.
All right. Well, Dean, what do you say we get on and do the podcast?
Yeah. Let's
Alright.
get off with our.
Loving
we
this
talk about cereal.
British
every
school
week.
and cereal podcast that I've apparently joined.
We do talk about cereal every week. That's
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. Okay. So our first question is usually, how did you get started on TikTok? Like, how did that all begin for you?
So I wish that I had like a fancy or cool or inspiring story to say, but the reality is, it was like early 2021. I just started in like April. It was early 2021. I was, in college in my apartment, but it was also like the height of COVID. So I wasn't doing anything. And I was just super bored and figured, what the heck? I'm going to start doing TikTok. And I did. And that's basically the end of the story.
That's funny, 'cause that's about mine too.
Yeah.
And mine.
There's so many people who are really big on TikTok now that just started based on like, screw it. And I love that. That's one of the great things about TikTok is that that's like a viable path to success.
Right. See, I started watching your videos like pretty early on, like when you started you were filming like in the bathroom with like the mirror, and then
that
like,
was early then. Wow.
I actually do remember that. Yeah.
Thank you for the long time support then.
Oh yeah, of course.
I think we would have become mutuals around then because I remember it was.
Yeah, it was. I know you were one of my first mutuals, one of the earlier ones. So
Thanks. And I don't really know what happened because obviously I'd watch all your videos, but I never like go on your profile. And I remember being like, oh yeah, he's got like 50,000 followers. And then I go on your profile and I'm like, oh, that's gone up.
Like, okay. Again, I wish that I had some like cool, inspiring story as to why I grew so fast. Again, I don't know what happened. I wish people ask me and I'm like, I don't know. It just happened. So
well, see, I've been watching you for a while, yeah, and you've been like crushing it lately.
Yeah, the past it's slowly started to go back down a little bit, but there was a period of like 3 weeks where I gained over 100,000 followers, like almost 200,000. I don't know why. I'm not arguing with it, but like I didn't do anything different. like I say, I don't know why. Like, I mean, I don't want to like sell myself short. I want to sound confident. I'm proud of the stuff I do. I put hard work into it, but nothing changed. It started skyrocketing. That's what confuses me about it.
Well, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of that Captain America.
Oh, the
series.
Captain America
I keep
series.
seeing those ones as well, actually.
The Captain America series is killing me.
But they're so good.
It's ending soon. It's ending soon. I'm gonna do another one today. I've started switching it to like kind of every other day. I'm doing another one today, and then I think at the end of this week, I have teamed up with some other TikTokers for a sort of 400K special and finale to the Captain America series, where I'm putting way more effort than I need to into it. And it's going to be great. I guess I can go ahead and say this, give people your podcast a little preview. You guys know who Mateus Ward is?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm doing a collab with Mateus Ward, which is very big for me. I'm excited about that. So yeah, you guys get a first look at what my 400K special is going to be.
Well, I mean, this should be out after then, right?
Okay, I don't know how long you take.
This comes out next Tuesday.
Okay, then yeah, then you guys.
Yeah, a week today.
Then you two specifically, not your listeners. You two specifically are getting a first look at what my 400K special will
right
be.
now. I'm gonna tweet about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just make TikTok videos about it. Be like,
get me some hype.
Yeah. So was there any one specific video you remember blowing up? Did you always kind of post the same thing, or?
I do remember the first video that absolutely exploded, and it was talking about the Avengers of 1 million BC, like the prehistoric Avengers, which I think specifically the part of it that made it so popular was I like really casually mentioned that there's a version of Ghost Rider who rides a flaming mammoth, and that everyone freaked out, and that video got over 1 million views, and that was the thing that really set me going. Interesting. I just redid a video about that Ghost Rider because I'm doing kind of a Halloween series. I did another video about him, several months later, and that one also is doing pretty well. People just like flaming mammoths, I guess.
Right. I mean, it's awesome. So
yeah, it is.
I think that might have been the first video I saw of yours.
It would not surprise me at all. It was the first of that a lot of people saw.
Like, so since you started on TikTok, have you always been posting the same kind of videos, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's evolved slightly as I think is natural, because originally I did a little bit more like series stuff. I talked more about like specific books, and then I very quickly learned that talking about specific characters is better than that. So it switched a little bit more from focusing on like book to focusing on character and story. But the core of it has remained the same. I find a cool thing and I tell people about it. That's my philosophy.
I think like comic book TikTok is like just does well because everybody loves Marvel right now, but nobody really knows anything.
Yeah, that's a good point, because like Marvel is huge right now. It's like one of the biggest entertainment things. End of sentence. But the MCU has like touched. It's just dipped its toe into the weirdness that is the sea of comics, and I just kind of like. I find cool stuff and tell people about it. And that's the success of the MCU has, of course, also been my success. So,
right. So I have a very important question for you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Dean. This is way more important than your
I'm
question.
I'm intrigued.
The thing behind you right now, is that a shower curtain?
Okay, I'll tell the story of the shower curtain again. I love this story. It's so good. So yeah, it is a shower curtain. You mentioned this earlier. I originally started filming in my bathroom, holding my phone up to a mirror like a lot of people do, because that was just the easiest thing for me at the time. And because I am a very cool and mature adult, I have a SpiderMan shower curtain for children in my bathroom.
As one does.
Or I had one. And that kind of became like sort of an iconic thing of my channel, because it was like, how like Straw Hat Goofy has like the mic pinch that he does. Like it's a very iconic thing. That sort of became the thing that people recognized me for, like the immediate key that who they were watching. And so when I moved out of that apartment and went back home for the summer, I was like, well, I can't really lose the shower curtain, can I? 'Cause it's a thing and it's funny. And so I put the shower curtain up in my bedroom. I used it as the background for a set. And this is actually, I've moved back to college now for the semester, but this is still up in my bedroom. There's just a wall behind this. But yes, it is a shower curtain.
Okay,
awesome.
so the big question now is, what do you have as a shower curtain?
Oh, it's got a shark on it. It's
A shark.
it is equally childish, but
That's
it's
awesome, though.
not Marvel branded. I think the funniest thing about the shower curtain is like a lot of people think that I'm still filming in a bathroom, which is really funny to me because that means that somehow, like, rather than assume that I put a shower curtain up in a bedroom, they assume that I have dragged these shelves full of all my collectibles into my bathroom, I guess.
That's the move.
Yeah, it's what a lot of people have jumped to. And I have to be like, no, it is a shower curtain. You're right about the first part, but I am not, in fact, in my bathroom anymore.
As a person who has had, some TikTok success along with Dean, I can say that people are dumb. In the nicest way possible.
Yeah. Okay. Let me preface this. The vast majority of my followers, I love them. My community is very, very great on the whole. Like, I do not see nearly as much toxicity as you might expect from like a fandom based thing. Yeah, you're not wrong sometimes.
Like, I have a piercing on my nose, and the amount of comments being like, "That's a weird looking mole," it blows my mind.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was a mole for like one video.
Well, see, you're the idiot. You're that 1%, Dean. It's just you.
I was commenting. I just went on my second accounts and just
That you made another account just for that.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't want him to know it was me.
Yeah.
Okay,
But yeah,
so
TikTok has been fun.
my final question is, like, now what drives you to make your videos?
That's a good question.
It's a loaded question.
It's a good one. It's one I have to think about for a second. Like, here's a good one. I really, really, really like stories and fiction in general. Like, just fiction is very important to me. I view it as like a key part of life. And I like bringing that to other people. It's like I said earlier, it's like I find something cool and I talk about it. I like finding stories that are, interesting and intriguing, and because it's TikTok, often just cool and stupid. And when I find these stories, I share them with people, and that's what I love to do. And so that's why I've kept up doing it to this day.
It's really neat. Good for you.
Thank you.
So I have another question, because I think you're the first person we've had on who's more of like a comics guy than a movie guy. So is comics your preferred storytelling medium?
I would say yes. I read and watch things of all types, but I am also a writer. When I write, I work in comics. Funny enough, I actually have to do like a screenplay format writing thing for another project I'm working on. So it's funny that you asked me that today, because that's what I'm going to do immediately after this podcast, is go write like a screenplay thing. But
Nice.
but yeah, comics is my preferred medium. It's what I've been into since I was a kid. Why I got into comics specifically, couldn't really tell you. It just sort of happened, but that's always been the core of what I like.
Interesting. Well, we're not going to talk about comics today. We will be talking about movies.
Yes,
And you have chosen your favorite movie as Chronicle.
I have, which it's a superhero movie. I don't think anybody is surprised, but it's a weird superhero movie.
It's a very niche superhero movie.
Very, very niche.
I never
superhero
seen it.
movie. You've never seen it?
Oh, well, I've seen it now. You've recommended
okay,
it.
Okay. So what did you think then? Let me ask the questions as someone who just watched it. What do you think of it?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very interesting, and I think what I found interesting about it is that it used like the superpowers more as like a plot device than an actual genre.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I found interesting, because I've always had ideas of because people complain that superhero movies can be too formulaic, which is definitely true. Whether it's Marvel or DC, they all fall under the same.
I can't deny that.
Tropes. And I think there's certain superhero movies I'm watching and I'd be like, oh, that would be really cool if they did this instead. And this movie actually brought in some of those elements that I've independently thought of.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask, what about you?
Oh, well, so I knew this was a superhero-esque movie starring Dane DeHaan, or however you say his last name, and that's it. I didn't know anything else about
Mhm.
it. And my dad was like, "Hey, we should watch the movie tonight," and I'm like, "I have to watch this movie for a podcast. Should we watch it?" And then we watched it, and then immediately I texted Dean, and I'm like, "Dude, this movie's so good."
I'm glad I could recommend it to you then. I love getting people to watch Chronicle.
Dude, it was. I think the thing that like really I really liked about it was the found footage trope in movies, like most movies gets really uninspired really quickly,
Mhm.
but this movie like constantly found new ways to like make it interesting and creative.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really interesting way they did it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, it's like just the base concept of like when all the elevator pitch that you really need for this movie, and the way I've pitched it to my friends, it's like it's a found footage superhero movie, and that alone is weird enough and unexpected enough that it immediately hooks people into it.
right, and it's like a found footage superhero movie about like, but it's not just that. It's about like kids getting superpowers. Like,
Yeah,
what doesn't sound interesting about that?
yeah,
Honestly,
it's fantastic. And okay, I guess I assume I should have asked this earlier. I assume spoilers are good on this. Is
Yeah,
this a no?
we'll just say full spoilers. Go
Okay,
watch the
okay.
movie if you have already. It's
Okay, yeah.
great. And it's short. Something I really appreciate about this movie is it's a tight 90.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That doesn't need to, like with the format, it doesn't need to extend on forever. The plot of it is just like, I think the reason that I love Chronicle so much is if you just take it at like the base plot, it is a superhero movie. Like a lot of people call it a subversion of superhero movies, but like the plot is a superhero movie. Kids get superpowers, and like through a tragic event, it leads them down different paths. But the thing that makes it so unique is while it does use a fairly traditional plot, it's about the bad guy. Like you
It
never
is, yeah.
see like so many superhero movies, if it's about the bad guy is going to have a like redemption arc where they're gonna, turn good. Chronicle does not do that. It tells a traditional good versus evil, the good guy wins, bad guy loses superhero movie from the perspective of the villain who does eventually lose. And that's so unique to see. And obviously there's a lot more nuance than just the black and white good versus evil. But like at its very core, it's a normal superhero movie about the villain. And I just absolutely love that concept. So fantastic.
What I was going to ask is, do you want to just tell us about your first time watching this movie? And
Yeah, okay, I can do that. I mean, it was probably, I don't know, it was sometime over quarantine, which, I could not pinpoint a point in linear time when it happened because every day was the same. But I remember watching it because I think it was Dan Slott, who's a comic book writer, if you're not familiar with that. Dan Slott recommended it on Twitter. And I was just like, oh, I like Dan Slott stuff. Let's see what this movie's about. And I was really bored one night and I watched it. And like you said, Harlan, I did not know anything about it going in. It was like, it's a superhero movie. I know who the cast is. Let's see what this is about. And I remember like as every major plot point happened, my jaw just kind of dropped because I sort of, as having read so many comics, I sort of had an idea of where I thought the story was going to progress because I'm used to predicting that like superhero formula, like we were talking about earlier. And then there were just moments where I was like, oh, that's not a normal superhero movie. I think the specific one that I can most drill down on is the spider scene, where that's like the turning point where you're like, okay, this guy has villain tendencies. We're maybe going to see that, but we're not 100% sure. And then he rips that spider apart. And I remember out loud going, oh shit. Because that's the point where it's like, oh, this is going to go downhill so quickly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There was like certain points where like, going into the main character's family life, he had a lot of struggles, and I'm like, this looks like the breeding ground for a villain. And then he took around the spider, and I'm like, oh, this is Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yes, for sure. It's such a good character study of a supervillain that you don't get to see very often.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think that is solely just because they tell it from his point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter like how compelling a villain is in most superhero movies, they're always still somewhat a side character.
Yeah.
And that's what,
Yeah, and this was not that. Like, it's the the antagonist of the movie is the good guy. Super rare to see, but I love it. And then this might be jumping ahead to something that we were planning on talking about later, but they are making a sequel, which is very.
Are they really? Is
Yes.
Josh
Okay. Did
Trank
you not?
at the
Did you
helm?
guys- to be honest, I don't. I can look it up really quick. I'll look up who's doing it. All I remember about it has a female cast now, and I don't recall. Okay, it's set 10 years after the original. We don't know exactly what that is. Like what the plot of it is. It's got a female cast. It's set 10 years after the original. No writer or director has been announced, which probably means that it's not going to be Josh Trank, which is a little worrying. But like, I'm very intrigued to see how it happens, because if they sort of left it open for a sequel, not directly, but like Matt is still around, presumably being a little bit more heroic. So I'm really curious to see if we're going to like, is it going to be like just another movie set in the same world, or is this going to be a direct sequel where we're going to get to see consequences of the original, namely like Matt actually going through and kind of finishing out his heroic journey?
See, I find it because Josh Trank, I did a little research on this movie after I watched it, but like he this was like a passion project for him. Like he was developing it for a while, and then he got a co-writer. And then he did this, and then he did Fanforstick, and now nobody really likes him.
Yeah, Fanforstick it's an interesting one. And looking especially at Fanforstick, it's kind of amazing that they came from this. Like, you can see the similarities between Fanforstick and Chronicle if you look really hard, but like there's so many differences in tone. Fanforstick is just odd. It's just odd.
Yeah, the interesting part about that for me is like a lot of bad superhero movies like Amazing SpiderMan 2 or stuff like that. Like a lot of it is bad because of like you have direct reasons, like direct studio interference. When you look at stuff like Fanforstick, part of the I suppose it's part of the narrative we've been told is like Josh Trank did a bad job on this as well as the studio and stuff like that, which does make this movie more interesting for me.
Yeah. And I can provide a little bit of insight from a comics perspective on why Fanforstick is weird too, actually.
Do it, please.
So
we have talked about it in a previous episode, actually.
Oh, so did you say you have or haven't?
We've talked about Fanforstick before, yeah.
Okay. Have you know about like the Ultimates comics origin? Do you know what that is? I'll go over it quickly if you've talked about it in a previous episode, but
go ahead. Harlan's shaking his head, so go ahead.
Okay. So, Marvel has a lot of different universes in their comics. That's a common thing, especially now that it's going through to the MCU. And one of their universes is called the Ultimates universe. And it's weird and not great. It was basically Marvel's attempt to sort of like retell a lot of their original stories in a like darker, grittier, more realistic sense. And if you watch Fanforstick, it very clearly takes more inspiration from the Ultimates version of Fantastic Four, not the main Fantastic Four that everyone was expecting. So like one of the reasons that it's so weird, and I'm not going to say that this justifies it because I still think it's pretty bad, but one of the reasons that it was so odd is because it is not based on the source material that everyone was expecting it to be. Fanforstick is based on a spin-off of the Fantastic Four, basically. And that's why it's so strange.
What do you, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't expecting to quiz you, but do you know like what things they brought over?
It's like the origin, because like,
well, yeah, but like what?
I would have to look it up again because I don't know a lot about the Ultimates universe. Like by design, I try not to because, for example, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are dating.
The example I was about to say.
Yeah,
they are still siblings and also dating. So I just stay away from the Ultimate
and
universe.
Wolverine's in a bush watching or something like that.
It's so there's a this is getting derailed, but it's funny. So I want to talk about it. One of my favorite pages, favorite because I love to laugh at it. One of my favorite comic pages ever is a page from Ultimates where it's the Avengers and they're all like outside of the Avengers mansion or whatever. And Scarlet Witch is wearing a super skimpy costume. And Captain America comes up to her and is like, hey, so you should probably change your costume because that like doesn't really fit the vibe of like what the Avengers are supposed to stand for, you know. And Quicksilver gets super offended by it. Like Wanda's fine, she doesn't really care, but Quicksilver gets very butthurt about it, and they like leave in a huff. And then Captain America turns to Hawkeye and is like, "The heck was that all about?" And Hawkeye goes, "Yeah, so I guess you didn't know this. They're romantically involved, which would be very bad for the Avengers if that got out. And so I'm gonna go kill him." And that's the end of the page. And it's like there's so many wild twists and turns in that one page where you just get to the end of it and you're like, oh my God. it's the weirdest thing. And so yeah, that's the Ultimate Universe in a nutshell right there. It's not good.
Wow, they really went all they went all in for that one.
Yeah, the one good thing that the Ultimate Universe gave us was Miles Morales. Miles came out of the he came out of the Ultimate Universe, and if you ask any Marvel fan what's the best thing out of the Ultimate Universe, I can guarantee you with 100% certainty they will say Miles and nothing else was good. Maybe the Maker, but that's unrelated.
Going back to Chronicle.
Yes.
Like this I have a Blu-ray list, which is basically movies that I want to own on Blu-ray, and I need that list, so I just don't buy every movie I see.
Mhm.
And like, so I put this movie on my list. I really like this movie, but there are a couple cons, not cons, but like something about I think the biggest is hard to avoid is the CGI. Like I think like this movie could like, there's just like 4 or 5 things that I saw and I'm like, that looks a little shoddy, but I could never tell you what it was.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess like you could make the argument that they're sort of trying to get around that by having like found footage. Like, I guess they don't need to have the best CGI if it's found footage, but no, I agree with you that it can be a little spotty in times and it's not.
But some is like,
for
some is mind blowing.
Oh yeah, some's great. It's just inconsistent.
I did look this up while I was watching because I was interested, and it had a budget of about 12 million, which would explain that. Like you can go, oh, this movie has bad CGI.
That's not huge
because of the budget, and then like I know this is the example everyone uses, and I don't think it's as bad as everyone says. But then a movie like Black Panther, which has a budget literally 10 times that having some dodgy CGI is a bit like more, annoying because you're you have enough money to sort this out.
Just 12, like for a movie where 3 kids flying around is like one of the core things that you're going to see. That's not high at all.
No, not at all. Yeah, when it comes to that, how did they do that? I don't know. Am I ever going to know? Probably not. And the other thing, and I feel like this is more of a critique I saw about the movie and less of one that I thought like when I was watching the movie. There's like the one character I have a problem with is, I think it's, I forget his name, but like that one like female love interest of that was really like from a writing standpoint, it was probably just a way to get another camera in there.
I mean, definitely, because they needed, when you have the villain recording all the footage, you're gonna need to have some other camera in there, or it's not gonna flow right. So yeah, you're not wrong again. Like she's the other camera.
But then again, she's like in 5 minutes, so like it doesn't really make a difference.
A question we have asked all of our guests is, do you have any issues? Do you have any issues with this movie? Is there anything that you like, dislike, or you would change about it, or is it just a perfect movie for you?
Okay, see, I'd have to think. I know one. I generally tend to focus on the writing in movies and shows and things, because that's what I am. I'm a writer. I focus a lot on the story. And so I'll fully admit that I often don't really like notice CGI problems or things like that when I'm in the movie, because I'm very invested in the story. And then someone afterwards will point out like, oh, this part sucked. And I'll be like, you know what? You're not wrong. So I'd have to think. I think the story is excellent. I don't have any notable things that I would change there. I mean, thinking about it again, like having I come back to that if we remember, because that's a
Sure.
good question that I feel like I have an answer for, but I can't get there, you know?
Okay, so
I
my
honestly need
next
to watch
question.
it again. I haven't
Yeah.
watched it for like a couple months, which I should have watched it before this, but I did not have time. So
No, you're good.
Fine. Don't worry about it. The other question I normally ask is, I'll start with Harlan for this one. What's your favorite moment of this movie?
Oh, I was just thinking about my favorite moment. Come back to me. I'm thinking.
I'll go with my one because I think it's a very well done moment when his dad comes into the hospital room and he sits down and he's crying, and I think this moment is so well written and performed, because you think originally like, oh, this monster is finally feeling some remorse, and like he's sad about his son, and then it completely just goes in a different direction when he starts talking, and then it goes in a different direction once again when the entire building just explodes. Like it's two very compelling and like took me by surprise twists there, which really worked.
Yeah.
That one 0.5 second clip where like he just wakes up and grabs his hand was so well done.
Yeah. I think I mentioned it earlier, but I can go in a little bit more in depth. I think one of my favorite moments is when Andrew rips the spider in half, because it's or rips the legs off. It's such a good like way to show just everything that you need to in that one scene. He's killing something small. Obviously, that's like a very clear dog whistle that he's a villain, but it also directly plays into like the apex predator nature that they're going to bring into the rest of the movie. Like having him killing something small like that is not just he's evil. It's an he's evil in a way that fits. And they also do it in a cool way that showcases the strength of his abilities. Because, he's not just killing the spider. He is individually taking the legs off. That shows his nature and the ability, like the level of control that he has all in one very quick scene without saying a single word. And as someone who's a big nerd for like superpowers and using them in creative ways, I love that. And a runner-up to my favorite scene, which is more of just a shock moment and less of a writing thing, because it shocked me when I was watching it, in the climax, when I don't remember exactly how it flows, but like Matt's up on top of the building or in the air, and he's not entirely sure where Andrew is, and then Andrew just hurls the entire bus at him. And that moment was like, oh no.
It's the bus horn a couple times, and then the bus really sells it. You're like, what? Oh.
Yeah. The entire bus just coming out of nowhere is such a, like, it's a shock moment. I know it's a shock moment, but man, it's one that I liked.
I think, thinking about this, I think my favorite part of the movie might just be like the finale, because I'm hesitant, like, because I haven't been like comparing this to enough movies, so I'm hesitant to call it like one of the best superhero movies, but I can confidently say this is like one of the best superhero finales ever,
for sure.
Especially because I think the specific moment that blew my mind was like they were because they stuck to the found footage idea, and they were having like helicopter footage and like on ground, and I'm like, oh, this is going to get a bit tiresome if we can't hear them talk when they're fighting. And then Andrew just takes all the phones from the people on the
that's such a good
tower.
Villain moment, man. I love that villain moment. Amazing.
And then I was like, oh damn, they did it. They did it somehow. And that was awesome.
The way that they balanced like dialogue and character development and emotional storytelling while also having two superheroes throwing buses at each other, like it was such a perfect balance for a finale, because it gives the action and it gives the emotional weight that people want. Beautifully done.
And like during that whole finale, because like Andrew has like those burns and he's like falling apart, it makes you feel for him so much more as he's like kind of like descending into madness. It was so good.
Yeah. Again, I'm very glad that I could recommend it to you, because it seems like you really, really like it.
I really liked it because I watched it with like my dad and my brother, and we were all like, why didn't we hear about this movie before? Because it's new. It's not like old.
Yeah, it's like 2012, right? So it's
I was gonna say earlier on. I think I was gonna say if this movie came out more recently, I think it would have been massive because
huge.
2012 is it's the start of the superhero boom. I think because that's Avengers year, and then from then on it just gets bigger and bigger. If this came out if Brightburn was like this, because Brightburn is similar in some regards.
Yeah.
If Brightburn was like this, I think we'd have the trilogy by now. It would have been massive.
Oh yeah. If this had because it was a new take on a superhero story, but before people were like looking for that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's gotten better over time because we've just gotten more and more used to the genre.
Yeah.
And after I watched this, I was like, did this movie bomb? Is that why I never heard about it? It didn't really bomb. It made $122 million. It did all right, especially on such a small budget, but they just never made a sequel.
Yeah, I think it's one of those movies that's like, I wouldn't necessarily call it a cult classic, but like if you mention Chronicle to someone who's like in the comic book community, especially, 9 times out of 10 they're going to be like, oh my god, I love Chronicle. If you mention it to someone who is not like deeply ingrained in superhero culture and stuff, they're not going to have any idea what that movie is.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's really interesting like that. I think the sequel is going to be interesting. Yeah, that's why I think the sequel is going to be interesting, because like on the one hand, while I want it to be good, I really don't see a path where it's going to be fantastic. And I'm speaking too soon. I haven't seen it yet. We just know like the base plot. Maybe it's going to be fantastic. I still have hope, but I do hope that when the sequel comes out, it will drive more people back to the original.
It will, yeah.
Something I find interesting, and I'm kind of glad the first one didn't take this route, is they never explained anything about how they got their powers besides they touched this weird glowing thing. And I was kind of like personally dreading that part of the story of them figuring it out. And it was kind of a breath of fresh air, just be like, you don't need to know it. It was just a glowing rock in the dirt. And
that's kind of what I mean when it was like, I was waiting for the moment where it's like, oh yes, he's turned evil because the alien rock is infecting him or whatever. Speaking of Brightburn, that's what happens in that. But I think that does lend itself to the kind of, this isn't like a movie in the superhero genre as much as it just uses the tropes of that. I think it's just like I said at the start, I think the superpowers are more like a plot device than the genre, which I think really works.
Yeah. It tells you what the characters know, and that lends itself well to being a found footage movie. It's like I think one thing that defines the superhero genre, especially right now with the rise of cinematic universes, and I mean, comics have always been like that, but is like interconnectedness. Everything has an explanation. Everything usually, connects to something else. If there's an opportunity for somebody else to get superpowers, they're going to. And while that's awesome, I love that. I love those super interconnected worlds. It is a breath of fresh air to see this is a kid with a camera. He's obviously part of something bigger. He doesn't know what that is. And you as the viewer are not going to either. You get to see the very close snapshot of what he sees. And it's such a differentiation that's amazing.
Right. And that's one of my main fears for this new sequel, because like, it's just like, you don't, how do I say this? For like that, like rock, right? You don't need to think of a story. Like it's right there for you to do. You don't have to think hard about it. But like Chronicle doesn't take that route. They take like, okay, how can we make this like a personal story without talking about a space rock?
I think if you bring, I mean, like, I'll do what I do best and overthink things. Let's just say the rock is aliens, right? Because that I think makes the most sense. It's some sort of alien thing that made a hole in the ground after it crashed. That said, I think the second you bring aliens into the universe of Chronicle, it's going to lose like all of its charm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It needs to be smaller scale, and it can have its big moments. But if the story is too big, that will immediately become a bad thing.
Yes, exactly.
Such a good movie though, man. I love it.
Dean, do you want to see the aliens, or are you anti-alien?
Um, Anti-Alien. It's a difficult one because if you're doing a sequel, you have to explore that in more depth because if you don't do that, then story-wise, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to continue the story of the first. But then I think they'd have to be very careful about how they do it. I think you could just go, oh, because it's interesting that the hole's been covered up and everything. And I think if they're going to try and go like the least explaining as possible, they could just go, oh, it was a meteor and the government found it, and just finish it like that. I think just going, oh, it's a meteor would be the simplest way to do it.
Continue, Harlan.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like if they like even like addressed it, they're like it's a meteor, I would be like, okay, well now I have to know more. Like this is the peak of curiosity. I'd be like, well, you got to tell me everything about it now.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this now. I think that it could draw inspiration from one other movie in the way that it does the aliens to make it work. I think if it sort of did its aliens in a similar way to Arrival. Have you seen Arrival? You guys? Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen Arrival.
Yeah. Dean, have you seen Arrival or no?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like the way that they just kind of, again, like the aliens are here. We're not going to explain them beyond what you need, but like also make them very like non-human, very mysterious. I think if Chronicle took that like very sort of like, not eldritch isn't the word, but you kind of know what I'm going for there, like very otherworldly take on the aliens, that could be good. But if the aliens become bad guys that they have to like punch to save the planet, that's not good. But if you sort of introduce the aliens as like these very otherworldly force, that could contrast really well to the human elements of the story as a whole, and that could work, but it would be very, very hard to pull off.
It'd be very hard. And if they're introducing a new like female cast, that would probably be next to impossible.
Yeah, because you can't. Yeah, the only way that you could really like provide that contrast, like I said, is if you do it with characters that are already established. And if you're trying to build up a new cast of characters while also adding such big elements to the world, that seems difficult. I'm so curious whether Matt's going to be in the sequel or not. I don't think that's been confirmed or denied, but that will change like the whole landscape of what to expect from it. I could see him appearing being a good thing. I can see him appearing being a bad thing. I'm not going to take a stance as to whether I want it to or not, but I will definitively say that it will change my whole perception of the movie.
I think you could, if we're pitching sequels, I think what you could do is just give this group of women different superpowers in a different way, and then have Matt come back. I think that could work for trying to still remain it unexplored, because then I think different superpowers, something still simple like telekinesis would work as well. Yeah,
different superpowers. I also think like they could do an interesting thing, and this again it'd be easy to fall into like more standard superhero tropes, but if you did something where they all had different powers, I think that could provide an interesting new take from the original, because one of the big points of the original is like these characters are all presented with the same thing. Here's how their stories diverge from that. If you wanted to take it in a different way and tell sort of a different story in the same style, you could have them get different powers and sort of tell a more human story of like, how are these people with such different abilities going to like coexist or not coexist, because this is Chronicle and one of them could end up being evil. That could be a very interesting take. But I do agree with you, Dean. Different powers other than telekinesis is definitely the way to go.
And you could also do it more interesting by doing the classic comic book thing and giving them powers that reflect their personality, and then that drives them.
For sure.
So I found a quote from producer John Davis talking about Chronicle II. And it kind of gives us a little bit more. I don't know if you've heard this, Matthew, but it kind of gives a little bit more insight. So it will have been taken 10 years since the events happened in Seattle, and a lot of it's going to deal with fake news and real news and cover-ups.
I did hear that. Okay.
And these women are just finishing college. They are empowered. This is their journey. So it looks like they probably shouldn't be. It's going to focus more on like the government and news.
And the legacy of what the
Yeah,
first movie.
that could actually, talking about the legacy of the first one, that could be really easy because it would be very like, say, I'm trying to just, script out a rough, like, we know Matt exists in this universe. We know he has powers. We know he's been put a little bit more onto a path of using them for good. What if in the 10-year gap, something that he does goes very wrong? And now it's like, that's sort of the fake news thing. It's like if he's presented as a villain when he's not, that could be, that could be really cool, is having him be sort of the catalyst for that. And then he shows up, everyone thinks he's a bad guy, he's actually not, and then these girls with powers have to deal with that and stigma from that would be cool. I'm on board with going for the fake news route. That would be interesting.
It's an interesting one.
When is it coming out? I don't remember. Does it say? Is there a rough thing in that quote or article that you're looking at, Harlan?
No, it's just like a one thing. The article was published in August.
Okay.
So
that's recent enough.
Yeah. Like you said, there's no like announced director or writers, so they're definitely
it's very early stages if there's nobody announced, but just August there being news about it. It's probably not stuck in development hell. I'm assuming that's still actively working. And I don't shut up about Chronicle, so maybe I can raise more awareness and get people talking about it before the second one.
I'm surprised they don't have Josh, like automatically have Josh Trank coming out of the project.
Yeah, that is really surprising.
They might not want him though after Fantastic Four drama. That might be the issue.
Well, is it the same studio? Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just found a quote. That's this is about to change the whole vibe. Okay. No writer or director have been announced, but don't expect Josh Trank to be returning. In 2020, he told Polygon, "I didn't really ever want to see Chronicle 2 happen. That was my worst nightmare. First of all, I'm not doing it. Second, if somebody else does it, then it's going to be a piece of shit."
All right, Josh, calm down.
So Josh isn't coming.
Josh always seems like a fun guy from everything I hear about him,
Yeah. Man. He's just butthurt his Fantastic Four movie sucked.
He is. He still talks about.
I'll never forgive it for what it did to. I'm not even going to call him Dr. Doom. It wasn't Doom. Doom's one of my favorite villains, and they got everything wrong. Anyway, I'm not going to derail this whole thing into a Fanforstick discussion again.
They somehow did it worse than the other one. Absolutely.
I don't even hate the other one. The other one's campy, but like, okay, I've said this before, and I'm not the first person to say it. A lot of people have said it. By miles and miles, the best Fantastic Four movie that we have ever gotten is called The Incredibles.
Yes.
Oh, don't get Dean started. He loves The Incredibles.
Oh, I also love The Incredibles. That was a candidate for me saying my my favorite movie.
Oh, it's
and then I ended up with like, now let's go with Chronicle. But I freaking love The Incredibles.
It's one of my favorite superhero movies ever.
Yeah, it's fantastic. What do you think? Okay, here's a question. What do you think about the second one? Because I know the second one is more controversial.
See, I do like the second one, but the first one is kind of like a parody of the superhero genre and kind of like a twist on it, where the second one isn't in any way. It just works as a decent superhero movie.
Okay, we're kind of in the same boat. I like both, but the first is better.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the second one tries to, in some aspects, try to, because like looking at how Elastigirl is like more capitalized and they're trying to boot up her.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, it is more of a sequel to the first one instead of a twist on the superhero genre.
Yeah.
Because it's the family drama that works in the first.
And that's exactly why it's the best Fantastic Four movie, because that's what it's supposed to be. And also their powers are basically the same.
Not only do I love
Jessica
The Incredibles,
Alba.
but I love the Fantastic Four so much. And as I will shut up about in our Fanforstick episode, I just want Marvel to do it right now, and it's the movie I'm most looking forward to of theirs, I think.
I'm looking forward to it too. I'm really curious as to how it's going to work. Okay. Do you have a cast in mind? Do you have any people that you
I've done
wanna
a few
play?
TikToks about this, and to be honest, I don't remember, but I'm not too fussed. I think John Krasinski isn't the choice I'd go for personally. Just that's the one everyone says.
Mhm.
But I can look actually. I can probably find who I did for mine. Do you have a cast in mind?
I know one. I'm not too picky, but I don't know if either of you have ever seen a show called The Good Place.
Yeah.
William Jackson Harper, the guy who plays Chidi, would be the best Reed Richards they could possibly get.
I actually think he's my one. If I've definitely said him in the past.
He would be amazing as Reed. He would be fantastic, and I desperately want him to be Reed.
Let me find it.
And I think it's possible. I think it's possible.
Yeah, because there was a rumor like months ago that they were going for an entirely non-white.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I mean, it might be. I don't remember seeing it, but I can say this: in the comics, this is me going back to deep comics lore, but it's relevant to the movie. In the comics, Kang the Conqueror, otherwise known as the guy that we saw at the end of Loki, is a descendant of Reed Richards, and so having him be black suggests that they're going to cast a black actor for Reed too, since they're like directly related. And fingers crossed, it's William Jackson Harper. I want him to do it so bad.
I have found my list, and William Jackson Harper is my Reed Richards.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. You gotta read the entire list.
Yeah, now read the whole list. Read the whole list.
I've got Gillian Jacobs as Sue Storm.
Okay. Yeah.
She's I can't remember the character's name in Community.
Yeah. I don't remember the name either, but
for Johnny Storm, I've got Zac Efron, or I can never remember how to say his name. I think it's Dacre Montgomery, who is the guy from Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he would be much more interesting.
He's the
okay. Hold on, I gotta look him up.
The villain of Stranger Things series.
I know. 3. I remember. Oh yeah. I remember who that is.
And then for Ben Grimm, I don't know if I like these choices anymore. I've got two as well. One is Joe Mangin. I can never say his last name. Manganiello.
I think it's Manganiello. I'm not sure either. We'll just assume that's right.
And the other one's David Denman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see most of those.
Any Doctor Doom fan casts?
My top tier Doom fan cast would be Mads Mikkelsen. I know we've already seen him in Doctor Strange, but like Gemma Chan is coming back in Eternals, and it's not like we would see Doom's face. That's true. Yeah, I think that Mads Mikkelsen would be an amazing Doom, because it's really more about the voice for Doom, and like I don't think having Doom's voice be like super deep would be the way to go. And Mads Mikkelsen has like the very intimidating voice, but it's also not just like guttural, stereotypical supervillain. I think he has like the more regal elements that you would need to voice Doom. So that'd be my top two.
It's interesting.
Have they announced the antagonist for Fanforstick?
No. We're just kind of assuming Doom.
Because I don't. Would you prefer a Doctor Doom solo project first? Because that's what I see a lot of people want.
Okay. There was actually talk of a Doctor Doom solo project that, funny enough, is vaguely similar to Chronicle. So I can tell you. Did you guys hear about this rumor?
I heard about it, but I didn't hear the Chronicle element of it. I don't think I heard any actual details.
Okay, if you didn't hear the details, then you probably haven't heard. So what this was a screenplay written by a guy a while ago. I don't remember the guy's name, unfortunately. And we know that Kevin Feige contacted him about it. I don't think it ever came to pass, but like there was interest in it, so it's possible. But what it was going to center around, what the screenplay centered on, we know that. And it was an American reporter who essentially is sent to Latveria on an assignment and basically becomes like the only person who's like allowed to record and report on Doom. She basically becomes like Doom's personal reporter. And so we see Dr. Doom and all the things he's doing in the inner workings of Latveria through the perspective of this American reporter who kind of gets like accidentally way in over her head and involved in this much wider story, which I think would be an amazing movie.
I don't know. It's an interesting one. I think if Marvel is going to do a proper villain led project, because obviously there's Loki, but I don't think that counts.
No, I don't get me started.
Yeah, Doom would be the clear choice, I think.
Yeah, Doom would be amazing. I don't know if we're gonna see him in as an antagonist in the first Fantastic Four. Like, there are other characters that I think would work better. I want Doom to take a similar role that Loki did in the first couple phases of the MCU, where like he is kind of both an ally and an antagonist, and it sort of depends on what, because that's the most in character thing that you could do for him. And obviously his story wouldn't end the same way that, you know, Loki's is at right now, but I think that having him be a more neutral figure,
definitely, especially if you're setting up Kang, there's definitely a lot of elements you can do of Doom versus Kang, which I think would be really interesting.
For sure. Doom versus Kang is a huge thing. You
could do a Doom movie with Kang as the antagonist. I think could work.
Yeah, that would be off. That's kind of there's a Doctor Doom series that just came out a couple months back that I have on my shelf. That's the wrong side over there. That where Kang is a major part of that. Their relationship is very important in the comics, and I think that would be an awesome way to introduce him.
Interesting. I don't know enough about comics.
I mean, I could talk for hours about it if you would like me to. That's what I do every day.
Okay, I've one last Fantastic Four related question, and I've also made a TikTok about this already. But do you have any Galactus fan casts?
I don't. I remember actually seeing your Galactus fan cast video. I don't remember who you said, but I remember you talking about it. I don't think I directly have a Galactus fan cast, which is kind of odd. You'd think I would, but I don't. I don't know. I'd have to. I don't have one prepared, at least.
My go-to is Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be good.
I can see that.
Because I think you do need to go kind of camp with your Galactus.
Yeah.
And I think him being such an over the top like deep voice, I think he can really sell it.
Yes, that's the exact thing I was talking about earlier, where it's like some characters need the overdramatic deep supervillain voice, and Galactus is one of those. Doom is not. But for Galactus, you definitely need that. I think Liam Neeson would be a good cast for that. I'm really curious what tone they're going to bring to the Fantastic Four movie, because there are so many different directions that they could take it. There's a right way, dare I say, which is like going for the Incredibles style, like family dynamic centered thing. But they could also take it in a more campy direction. They could also try to take it in an edgier direction, though after Fanforstick, I doubt that's going to be their play.
And also it's John Watts.
Yeah, that's
also true.
It worries me about this. And nothing against John Watts, just fantastic. Like I said, Fantastic Four is what I'm most looking forward to, and I just want the best. And I don't think he's that. I think he's very middle of the road as a director.
Yeah, it will be an interesting movie for sure. Because we don't I'm trying to think. All that we know is that it's happening, and we saw a 4 logo, right? Like, there's no other details on it other than just John it's happening Watts. And here's a logo. And John Watts, yes.
Yeah, that's all we know.
So there is probably a lot more prepared, since we know who's directing. Just haven't gotten that info yet. Who knows? Someday soon.
That's what I'm most looking forward to, I think. So,
that's Spider-Man No Way Home?
Yeah.
No Way Home, man. I'm excited for No Way Home. I want to get invited to the No Way Home premiere. I don't know how I go about doing that, but
I want to. Yeah, I need to figure out. I want to know how to get to the premieres as well in London.
I don't think that you can. I have talked to somebody. Exactly. I won't say who, just in case I'm not supposed to say. Someone told me, like, you don't get to them. Marvel contacts you. Exactly. That's and it's entirely random. So if they were going to invite me to any premiere, like, come on. I've been setting myself up.
I think
now it's going to be Morbius, the next one after you're invited to instead.
Dude, could you imagine? Oh my God, getting invited.
Actually, I would freaking love to go to them. Like, jokes aside, I would love to go to the Morbius premiere, because I am. Okay, here's the thing. I'm genuinely really excited for Morbius. I'm very hyped for that movie. because I know it's gonna be horrible. Like, it's not gonna be good. It's gonna be terrible, and I'm kind of excited for it. Like, going in with absolutely total bottom of the barrel expectations.
There was a second there I was really worried where that sentence was going.
God, no, it's gonna suck.
Uh,
Yeah.
Oh.
see, what we just have to do, Dean, you need to get some. Well, I guess you have the Spider-Verse memorabilia. For the next like 3 months, I just need to be wearing sleeveless shirts. Because if you don't, I have a Spider-Man tattoo.
Okay, yeah, that makes that
that
puts
yeah, it was
that
a bit
sentence
weird.
in way more context. I wasn't gonna say anything, but I was like, oh, is this like, are you threatening? Are you threatening them?
I was about to say he's flirting with Kevin
Yeah.
Feige.
Yeah, with my twig arms.
But yeah, no, Spider-Man tattoo makes a lot more sense.
yeah, that's it. And I'm not trying to show off.
I'm
It's
just
my
gonna
arms.
put words Marvel UK, please contact me.
Oh.
I mean, I know somebody at Marvel watches my TikToks. Statistically,
Yeah,
somebody
100%.
does. So we just gotta hope that it's somebody with the power to make that happen.
All I'm hoping is that because I'm in the UK, there's a smaller pool to choose from. That's all. That's the one thing I've got going for me.
Well,
Dude,
what
okay.
UK Marvel creators are there?
You gun
Series by
as
T.
hard for it as you can when Captain Britain inevitably comes out.
Yeah. If when Captain Britain comes out.
But yeah,
Oh.
Theories by T is another.
Yeah, he's the only one I
Movies,
can
comics.
think of that's
Yeah.
big.
Yeah, same here. I can't think of it.
Well, there you go. I'm
You
the
and
second
Theories by
biggest
T.
Marvel creator in the UK, definitively.
Hey,
Uh,
there you go. Yeah, that's good. Man, those premieres. I wanna go someday. Someday, I'm sure
Dude,
I'll make it.
Yeah, fingers crossed. All right, so dialing it back to Chronicle.
I like
This
this
is-
sort of cyclical way we've been doing this.
This is what happens every time. Every single time.
I wasn't being sarcastic. It's a good vibe.
Oh no, honestly, we've
Um,
gotten less distracted today than usual, I think.
Ah.
Yeah. Oh my god, there is Spotlight.
No, it was
We-
we talked about the Prestige, but instead of talking about the Prestige, we literally talked about Spider-Man for the entire time.
Okay, because the guy said the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is really good.
I need to see
Sorry.
the Amazing Spider-Man 2 again. It's been a hot minute since I've seen it. Anyway,
I'm watching all of them before No Way Home. Anyway,
I was gonna do that, and then that play with some friends, but that fell through. We might still make it happen. We'll see. Anyway, back to Chronicle again.
Okay, starting with Dean. If you had to rate this out of 10, what would you rate it?
I think I'd go 9.
I would probably go 9 too.
I was
That
also
sounds
gonna
about
say 9.
I think like the only thing that doesn't put it at the 10 are like I said, like those very, very minuscule story elements that like you need in the movie, but just were possibly with like an extra 10 minutes could have been like a better part in the movie. But like
Yeah.
besides those little tiny things, it's a really good movie.
Yeah, for
I
me,
mean-
there's nothing specific that it does wrong. I think there's just still something missing, I think.
Mhm.
Mm.
I don't put things at like 10s out of 10s or 5s out of 5 super often. So, 9 is pretty much as high as I'll reasonably go without something being like the best thing I've ever seen. And there's very little that I can criticize about Chronicle. So yeah, easy to average, solid 9 from this group.
Solid average. There you go.
Solid average.
So thank
Yeah.
you for joining us, Matthew.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, it
thanks
was a
for
great
coming
time.
on.
Thank you for having me. Again, like I've said, I'm very glad that I could introduce you guys to Chronicle. I'm glad you liked it so much.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So all your links will be in the bio and everything. If people somehow haven't seen your TikToks before and want to go check them out, is there anything else you want to plug or?
No, I guess I'll plug my second account because I have that now. So most of you probably know me as SirSuperhero, where I talk about Marvel stuff. But I do have a second account on TikTok now called SirSuperVillain, unsurprisingly, where I talk about other lore because people wanted to hear me explain, things that I like besides Marvel. I've been talking about Power Rangers there. I've been talking about the lore of a game called Destiny. So if you like the way that I explain things in my style of video, go check out SirSuperVillain if you want to hear more of that.
See, I followed that, but the entire time I just thought it was your evil stepbrother, your evil twin brother.
Yeah, see, I was a little confused.
Okay, no, okay. Well, I wasn't gonna get that was gonna be a big reveal once I hit 100K, Dean. So thanks for spoiling that.
Nice going, Dean.
We were going to invite him on the podcast next week.
Yeah.
Oh no, he
Compare the
hates
two.
you.
Oh. Well,
Yeah, I wouldn't ask him. You know, he's not the nicest guy.
Okay. Well, I guess we got to find somebody else, Dean.
Yeah, we'll go
Yeah.
back to the drawing board with that one.
I wish you luck in that.
I'll email Kevin Feige. He doesn't respond to my emails about premieres, but I'll still ask him about
Yeah.
those.
Eventually, you
Eventually
spam
come
Kevin
on the
Feige with
podcast.
enough emails, and he's got to respond to you, right?
Exactly.
I think that's how it works. But yeah, thank you guys again for having me on.
Yeah, thanks
had a really
everyone
good
for
time.
listening. And yeah, guess
Adios.
We'll see you next time. I was about to say it. Okay, goodbye.
See ya.